Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Franklin Regional School Board of School Directors organization meeting on today, Monday, December 2nd, 2024. At this point, I would like to do a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Ms. Wolf.
Mr. Azzolina?
Here.
Mrs. Buchera?
Here.
Dr. Eshelman-Ramey?
Here.
Mr. Fallett?
Present.
Mr. Kozlowski?
Here.
Mr. Krimsky?
Here.
Mr. Weinman?
Here.
Mrs. Woline?
Here.
Mr. Zebrak?
Here.
All present.
I'd like to make an announcement that we were in executive session prior to this meeting to discuss contractual obligations. Before we get started into the public comment, I'm going to take an opportunity to introduce some student representatives to the school board. One of the things that the board really desired to have was the opportunity to hear student voice and to engage students in the meeting process. And so we approached high school administration about going through a process with student council to select some school board representatives or student representatives to the school board. And we have two students with us this evening who will serve in that capacity for the board. And really their role, just so the public is aware, student representative of the school board every month will provide a report to the board and also work with the board on items that are of concern to the students or those items that are before the board for consideration. And so these representatives obviously will not participate in the executive session or personnel-related discussions or decisions, and they will not be voting members, but they will be members of this team, with this team of 10, as we consider policies and programs that impact students. So with us tonight, I'm going to ask them to come forward and introduce themselves. We have Abram and Jamie. Just give us your name and grade and a little bit about you.
Hi, I'm Jamie Casella. I'm a sophomore at Franklin Regional, and I swim and I run track.
Hi, I'm Abiram Yadlopoli. I'm a junior at Franklin Regional High School, and I'm part of student council. I was just recently elected secretary of the junior class, and I'm also a part of multiple clubs, including FRSD Cancer and Leukemia and Lymphoma Society.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have no public comment for this evening. So at this point, in terms of the organization, I will soon be leaving as chair because the board will elect a president pro tempore for their organization who will facilitate or lead the process of selecting the president of the board and the vice president of the board. So at this point in time, I am opening nominations for the office of president pro tempore.
I nominate Scott Wyman.
Scott Wyman is nominated. Are there any other nominations for the president pro tempore? Are there any other nominations for the president pro tempore? Are there any other nominations for the president pro tempore? Hearing none. Mr. Wyman.
Nominations are open for the president of this board.
I'd like to nominate Kevin Krimsky.
Kevin Karimsky is nominated. Are there any other nominations for the office of president? Are there any other nominations for the office of president? Are there any other nominations for the office of president? Hearing no further nominations, the nomination of the office of president is closed. Kevin Crimsky being the only candidate nominated for the office of president, the chair declares him elected by acclamation and directs the secretary to do so. Record in the minutes.
At this point, Mr. Crimsky, you take back over the meeting.
All right. Thank you. So now we will move on to nominations of the office of Vice President. I need nominations are now open for Vice President of this board.
I'd like to nominate Mark Kozlowski.
Mark Kozlowski is nominated. Are there any other nominations for the office of Vice President?
I'd like to nominate Dr. Tracy Eshelman-Ramey.
Dr. Tracy Eshelman-Ramey is nominated. Are there any other nominations for the office of Vice President? Are there any other nominations for the office of Vice President? Are there any other nominations for the office of Vice President? Hearing no further nominations, the nomination of the office of Vice President is closed. And with multiple nominations, having multiple individuals nominated for the office of president, I'm calling for a roll call vote. The two candidates are Mark Kozlowski and Dr. Tracy Eshelman-Ramey. Ms. Wolf, please conduct the roll call vote, and we will go in the order of nomination. So we will start with Mr. Kozlowski.
Mr. Azzalina,
Yes.
Mrs. Buchera,
No.
Dr. Eshelman-Ramey,
No.
Mr. Fallett,
No.
Mr. Kozlowski,
Yes.
Mr. Crimsky,
Yes.
Mr. Weinman,
Yes.
Mrs. Woline,
No.
Mr. Zebrack.
No.
Motion fails.
We will move forward with Dr. Tracy Eshelman-Ramey and a roll call vote. Ms. Wolf.
Mr. Azzalina,
Yes.
Mrs. Buchera,
Yes.
Dr. Eshelman-Ramey,
Yes.
Mr. Fallett,
Yes.
Mr. Kozlowski,
Yes.
Mr. Crimsky,
Yes.
Mr. Wyman,
No.
Mrs. Woline,
Yes.
Mr. Zebrack.
Yes.
Dr. Ramey was elected.
All right, we will now, with that, with a clear winner, we will record that for the minutes, and Dr. Tracy Eshelman-Ramey will be vice president. We are now moving on to meeting dates and locations.
Can I break decorum for a moment, if I may?
You may.
I just want to extend my thanks to Mark for the past year as a new member to the board. He answered a lot of my questions throughout the year, was very supportive, and he's tolerated a lot of my lean over questions throughout the meetings over the past year. So I want to recognize and thank him for that, and I assume he'll continue to do the excellent service he's given thus far to the board.
Same.
Same here.
Same.
Thank you. So I need a motion to approve the dates and the locations of the committee in a whole meetings and the Board of School Directors regular meetings as presented.
Before we do that,
Yes.
Can we, last year during the spring, there was some talk about certain meetings that are considered heavy meetings every year, and we wanted to separate those for those particular months. I think, was it June?
I think it was May.
I
Yeah.
just wanted to bring that up now while we're approving these meetings. We'll have them on correctly if there is one specifically that the board wanted to do, because it cycles every year as a heavy agenda.
Yeah, no, great point, thank you. And as we've always alluded to, is the fact that if there's an item, we can hold a separate meeting or something along those lines. If it is a heavy month, typically the only one we've come up with was May. So if we want to look at that or designate that as a motion now to say that potentially in May we might have two meetings just because of all the things that might be on the approval list for that, we could do so.
The only advisement on May, which makes it a little bit more complicated, is the budget has to be on display for 30 days. And so it has to be 30 days before June 16th. So it would have to be the first week of May, the,
Second week.
and then the second week.
Second
Yep.
week.
It would have to be back-to-back weeks.
We'd have to go back-to-back weeks probably if we did that.
Right, correct.
Correct, okay. Duly noted. And thank you for bringing that up in acknowledgement of that. So as is, with the exception of potentially looking at 2 dates in May, I need the approval of the meeting dates and locations for the committee of the whole and the regular meetings for the other months.
So moved.
John,
Second.
second Vince. Any comments? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And then the next is the committee representation. What I would suggest at this particular time is at the in your packet, at the end is all your committees listing in your preference form. What I would say is before you leave tonight, fill that out and then make sure that I have a copy of that, and then we will do our best to make sure that everything gets acknowledged as far as the committees that you want to be a part of, knowing that we have 4 on committees, and we'll do our best to try to accommodate everybody in that regard. And then, Donna, do we vote on in January, or we just need to make sure they know an assignment? Thank you.
Just set it up,
Okay.
and then we let everyone know.
So just make sure that I have those here that you would be interested in. And at that point, I'll open it up for any additional comments or questions anybody has before we adjourn. All right. Well, I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
We'll do Josh first and then Scott second. Thank you, everyone.